Hi everybody, welcome back to Status of the Nation. Thank you for joining me again. As per usual, we're going to break down some of the biggest stories that have been happening in South Africa and basically across the world. So let's get started. So the first thing is, I'm sure you guys are aware by now that Cyril Ramaphosa signed the minimum wage agreement, and minimum wage has basically been set at 20 rands per hour. Now, this 20 rands per hour, if you work it out across a month, comes out to 3,500, right? Which 3,500 is not the living wage in South Africa. Now, Cyril basically has said that he understands that the 3.5 is not a living wage, and that he feels that, them signing this will start basically a process of them getting to a living wage in South Africa. He's also mentioned that for companies that can't afford the minimum wage, they can apply for an exemption. Now, there have been a couple of concerns, obviously, when this was brought up initially and now that it's been signed. The first concern being that people fear that businesses are going to start to reduce the number of hours that people can work in order to afford it. And what that's going to lead, basically, it's going to lead to underemployment. Underemployment in this context basically means that if a person was working 40 hours a week, now the company will say that they must work 30 hours a week, right? Which would be their way of trying to afford the minimum wage. For me, my concerns or question really are about, the fact that it's below the living wage. It makes no sense to me that he can recognize that it's below the living wage and still sign it. And I understand that, it's still the beginning and it's the starting of the process, and that eventually it'll get to where it meets the living wage. My thing is, then why bother signing it now? Why not wait, or why not work through the proposal or the report? Why not work through it to get to a point where, it is the living wage? Because what is that to say to people, to say that you can work, but whatever you're going to be paid is not really an amount that you can live off of? And we're just talking about the basics. So my thing is, if you consider the purchasing power of 20 rands last year and 20 rands this year, there's a difference. Now factor 20 rands in 2018. I almost feel like, of course, this figure hasn't taken into account any type of inflation. And if already now we're saying that it's below the living wage, what's that going to look like come 2018? The thing that I'm interested in all of this basically is to see how it's going to work and the results from it. I mean, we're going to have to wait, obviously, for the next SONA to get the youth unemployment figures and see what that's about. I don't think it would make any sense to look at the numbers from SONA next year, because it's only going to be implemented in March 2017, and we all know that SONA happens in February. So for me, the true test of its success and the issues that they're going to have will only be seen, in my opinion, come 2019, when the president does give the SONA and we look at what those figures look like. And of course, it would have been a whole year since it's been implemented, so it's going to be interesting to see. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is this. So for those of you who obviously follow me on Facebook, you would have seen that I spoke briefly about this, and I just want to say it again because we all know what this is about. If you consider, of course, the comments that Herman has made about foreign nationals and the fact that they're criminals and all of these things, which, much like the other politician, he has no data or facts to back it up. But again, who needs the truth when you're being motivated by all these other things? My belief, though, is that people are being obtuse when they look at this, because they're looking at it as, it's crime fighting, and, all you people who are complaining have an issue with crime fighting. That's not the point that we're making here. The point isn't crime fighting. I think the problem is that when all of this is happening under the umbrella of crime fighting, and people can kind of look past it, because what is it to say when you target a specific group of people? Because in your mind, by your understanding, they're the criminals, they're the bad guys, but then we want to disguise it all under crime fighting. We have to look at it for what it actually is, and you consider the comments that he's actually made. It kind of ties into what I've heard a lot of people say about him specifically, that they feel like he's anti-poor and he's anti-black. you look at his actions and you listen to some of the things that he says, and you can't help to believe that that's actually true. And, people on Twitter were making all sorts of, examples and scenarios. People asking like, well, is he going to be going to Sandton and Rosebank and asking for those people to show him ID? What happens when, you're South African born and you don't have your ID at the moment, which, by the way, there isn't a law that says that I have to carry ID with me wherever I go, So and unfortunately, it opens up this very ugly thing, but it's like, he kind of created and he got himself in this situation, all under, of course, the guise of crime fighting. But again, if we're honest and we look at it for what it really is, that's not what's happening. It's another reason why I kind of struggle with this party a bit. The fact that no one from the party has actually come out, and called this what it is and effectively call him to order. Everybody's happy with business as usual, and people want to be like, yeah, well, he's fighting crime, he's doing this, he's doing that. But you need to look at it a bit more and a lot deeply, because no one is saying that there's anything wrong with fighting crime. No one is saying that. Like, let's not be simple about it. But you have to look at the way he's going about it, and you have to understand that there's something deeper here that he's doing beyond just fighting crime. So I'm not going to talk about SONA 2017. I did that already in my past video. I'll link it down below for you guys. But this right here for me is just another example of like how embarrassing things can be with our government. Because what is this even a thing to tweet? I mean, forget about the apology, but like, how did it even happen is my question. Like, what's the password protection type situation that they have going on over there? And of course the apology is kind of like, it happened though, guy, and it shouldn't have happened, because at the end of the day, everything that happened in Parliament, nothing about that was funny, nothing about that was, a ha-ha moment, so that was really embarrassing. Donald Trump is upset at Nordstrom. Basically, Nordstrom has decided that they're going to take Ivanka Trump's line of clothing out from their store, and the president was not happy about it, and he started to tweet about it. What I think people need to be aware of is the fact that when Nordstrom decided to do this, it wasn't a personal attack on Ivanka because, that's her dad. That's not what happened. This is the same company that released a statement to basically say that they're not going to judge her, or they're not going to remove her clothing from the store because of her father. They're not going to prejudice her because of her father, and because they say that they believe that their customers need to be able to make their own decisions. The thing is, their customers made their decisions, which is why the line was removed. It was removed because of bad sales. That's not fake news, all you Trump supporters. It was removed because of bad sales. It was a business decision, and you would think that someone like Donald Trump would understand that it's a business decision. But this is the thing that's kind of troubling, again, about Trump, about when these things happen, he always takes to Twitter. But what I found extra troubling is that you had Kellyanne, I think that's her name, Kellyanne. Yeah, she works for the president. And the White House also, retweeting, and Kellyanne, I think, was on Fox and was telling people, go buy Ivanka's clothes, she's a great girl, whatever. I'm like, what's happening here is that the president is not just reacting as a father who may just be hurt that his daughter's clothes aren't being sold, but everything around him as the president of the United States is being involved in what is essentially a business/family issue. What is that for the White House to retweet him saying that Nordstrom is, being unfair to the daughter? For an employee, basically, of the president and the country to get on the news and tell people to go buy her clothes, whatever, that's got nothing to do with the affairs of the country. It's got nothing to do with the state of the nation. So it makes no sense that this is happening. And again, this is the issue, and this is the concern that people have about him, when it seems like, presidential things are being kind of mixed in with family and personal issues. He then came back to tweet in all caps. Now, you guys remember the whole travel ban and all of that drama surrounding that. Now, a US district court basically set it aside and said that, the whole ban, everything about it was wrong, whatever. Then the Federal Department of Justice basically filed an emergency appeal against that judge's decision, and it was sent to the appeals court in San Francisco. Well, in San Francisco, they decided that they're not going to reinstate Donald Trump's travel ban, hence all caps. One of the judges of the appeal court said this. He said, "The government has pointed to no evidence that any alien from any of the countries named in the order has perpetrated a terrorist attack in the United States." Now, you guys remember this is something that we spoke about when we talked about the facts and we talked about the numbers and the data, not the alternative facts, that there's nothing to back up what the president is basically saying. So I guess this is him saying that they're going back to court, which is kind of like, you lost already, but you're going to go to court again. I don't know. I feel like I know how this thing is ultimately going to end, but we'll see. We'll see how it all kind of goes down. Another thing that he let us know again via tweets, which is this how it's going to work? I almost feel like Donald Trump forgets that he's got an entire White House press secretary, like people who...
Hey guys, good afternoon. Who've also otherwise violated our laws. The principal committee is judiciary toward their progress in lowering drug prices, where he cast a historic deciding vote for Secretary of Education. Please contact the press office if you know of anyone. With allies around the globe, historic financial investment to ensure its full implementation. Yesterday, Judge Gorsuch, we have our eyes on Kabul today for reaction to our Skype introduction seats yesterday. The president issued a memorandum of executive orders delivering some much needed. The executive order president delivering on his promise to Elaine Chao, also gratefully more than 60 to lead the Department of Transportation. The president has been honored to receive tremendous support for various options to address voter fraud. The president will depart from 55 or purchase for U.S. military.
But anyway, he let us know via tweets about the wall that, he wants to build alongside Mexico. What I found interesting, though, is this his way of letting the U.S. citizens know that they're going to pay for it? Look, Mexico already made it very clear that they're not going to pay for this wall. So him talking about bringing the price down and all of that, could this be his way of saying, guys, you're going to pay for this wall ultimately? Who's to say? So you guys remember the whole state capture, Ngabisi Jonas, Gupta family debacle. You guys remember that, right? Well, AJ Gupta basically got an affidavit from Duduzane Zuma that basically says that he wasn't there when the meetings were being held. So he's kind of like, I have nothing to do about it. So this is the affidavit. The problem with this affidavit is the date. Now, I don't know, maybe 600 million, gives you the ability to time travel, because in the state capture report, Thuli mentions the dates 2015 and 2016. So I'm not quite sure what this date is, but 600 million can do a lot. So maybe time travel is one of them. In other news, Thuli has basically said that she's going to pay back the money. You guys remember the video that we spoke about last week, the issues that she was having with Busi had to do with this car that was crashed by her son and all of that. So Thuli's basically said she's so sorry about, all the drama and the commotion that it's caused, and that she's going to pay back the money, which obviously, I almost didn't understand why she was kind of fighting it, because it's like, your son crashed the car. There's no question about it. The car is damaged, you have to pay for it. So I didn't understand why it was a whole back and forth thing, but it's sorted now, she's gonna pay for it. In ESCOM news, I don't know if you guys know what the Denton report is about, but it basically got released last week, and this is what it looks like. I saw various people and various politicians and journalists basically complaining to say, what was the point of even releasing the report if it's this heavily censored? I doubt there's actually anything in the report that can be read. Maybe like aside from like the introduction or like, I don't know, what is being hidden, because this is ridiculous. Like, what's the point of giving a report if no one is going to be able to read it or be able to like gain any sort of understanding or knowledge from it? It's just suspect, is all I'm saying. In other news, students at the Walter Sisulu University have been evicted. And the reason why they've been evicted is that they don't have the 20% MIP that the university required from it. What I found interesting about this whole thing is that I haven't seen any coverage of it from mainstream media. And the only reason why I know about it is because of the incredible people I follow on Twitter, and people have been talking about it, and it really is incredibly sad. And this is one of those times again where we're going to need the government to do something. We're going to need the Minister of Education to do something, because what is it to say to students who pass matric, meet the requirements for whatever course that they want to study, but they don't have the 20% MIP that is needed by the university, and then they get evicted? The government needs to do something about it. Yeah, so that's basically it, guys. That is a quick roundup of the status of the nation. What else? Oh, Caster Semenya is getting her gold after whatever her name was got stripped of the gold because of doping. Mind you, this is the same girl who, when Caster was competing against her, was being hateful and was coming up with all sorts of theories about why Caster, should be kicked out of the game or whatever. And now it's like, you see, this life will come at you fast when you're ugly to people. What else? Oh, everybody's favorite rapper decided that he was gonna, get political about it and tweet about his views about corruption and all sorts of things. I'm just like, at this point, maybe just stick to making music that, people like. I don't know, because nothing about what he said made any sense. Like, it made absolutely zero sense. I absolutely love this response that someone had to his tweet, because it's like, if you're gonna be ridiculous, then let's all be ridiculous. Like, what are you doing? But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure you like the video, make sure you comment and subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends and your cousins, and thanks for watching. Bye.